So, August, it's been a real month of change for me. And my last video was about working with circular decks, and I got thinking about the power of the circle in my life. And in August, I've been working with lots of different circles. I've been working with emotional wheels, trying to tap into emotional literacy, words for emotions, words for healing on variations of the emotion wheel, and doing emotional release exercises every day as well. So the circle has been in my mind for August. And I also think about the fact that I got posed the question by somebody, what exactly do you mean about using tarot for healing? What does that even mean? So today I thought I would do a circular healing spread. You've just seen how I shuffle the deck 7 times, then cut it, and now I'm going to wait for jumpers. And I've thought of a healing tarot spread based on the idea of a circle that I'm laying out here. Position 1 at the top of the circle is for where you are now. Where are you beginning? And this is a spread for a week of healing. So the top of the circle is where are you right now. The bottom of the circle, you see I had 2 cards jump there, so they both go down, is where could you hope to be by the end of the week. Then down the right hand side, I'm pulling 3 cards. These are position 3, 4 and 5. These are 3 things to support me over the week. What can I do to get where I need to be by the end of the week? 3 things to embrace. Then the other side of the circle, in a more past position, it could be things from the past that are still dragging you down, or things to let go of, just things to be aware of that could hinder you on the left hand side. These are in positions, what would they be? 6, 7 and 8. Yeah, so we've got top of the circle, position 1, where are you right now? Bottom of the circle, where you could possibly hope to get to in a week, almost like a signpost for the week. 3 cards in the future position on the right for things to embrace, things that can really help your journey through the week. And then in the past position on the left 3 cards for possibly things hindering you from the past or things you need to let go of. I'm also going to keep the remaining pack there ready to look at the underlying bottom card of the pack for the underlying energy. So I've done that with my main tarot deck. But now I want to pull 3 central cards as well for the week. I've gone for the Brian Froud Fairy Oracle here. This is to get a magical being or magical entity to support me for the week. Brian Froud's Fairy Oracle is perfect for this, but any oracle or tarot where you feel there would be an actual sort of magical embodiment of a figure to support you in the week. And again, this is a chance for you to see how I shuffle. I always think of the position of the card as I shuffle 7 times, and sometimes it's more than 7 times if it feels right, sometimes it's less. I listen to the whispers of the deck as I shuffle. Once I've got to a point where I feel my question is firmly in the deck, I'll stop shuffling, I'll split the deck once to let the deck know I'm ready for the card, and then I'll overhand shuffle until a jumper comes out. So that's my first position for the middle of the circle, a magical entity to support me through the week. I then pull a second oracle deck. This is the Celtic Oracle. This is going to be a card for my anchor for the week. I think when you're healing something, it's almost like you're trying to get from one spot to another spot, and the healing journey feels a little bit like no man's land sometimes. For me, it's about being ungrounded. So this central card of the middle of the circle is my anchor card, what I can hold on to make sure I don't drift away, lose focus, where I need to keep coming back to resettle myself. What's my anchor card going to be for the week? And finally, the jumper for that anchor card in the centre of the circle. And then lastly, I wanted a family ancestor, an ancestral line card. So voices from my own line, my ancestor line. I'm using the Ancestral Path Tarot for this. So to key into safe voices in my ancestral line or other versions of myself from the past, something in my heritage, my ancestors, a warning, a piece of advice. A lot of my healing issues are to do with generational curses repeating. I can see it in many aspects of my life and the problems that have been passed down. There are repeating problems that pass down. So I think it's important to try and tap into the advice from the ancestral line as well. So that's what I'm looking for here, a card for that. And when I finally got that card, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull a oracle deck that I think feels like a emotion wheel in a deck, and I'm literally going to place a corresponding card on each of the outer circle cards. As a emotion wheel would read, I'm literally going to turn this reading into an emotion wheel. And the deck that I'm going to do that with is the Reclaim Oracle. I love this oracle. I found that my healing journey has either been hindered or accelerated through emotional literacy, and it has been a real shock doing my emotional release exercises that I'd fallen back into being completely unable to identify any emotions, like literally completely dissociated yet again from my emotions. Not surprising if you're numbing and burying constantly under behaviours that hurt yourself. So in a position of not being able to identify my emotions, I'm literally turning to the Reclaim Oracle to just position on each of these cards around the edge of the circle an emotion word, something to think about, something to ponder as I move through this reading. So each card gets its own oracle card. Now, if you don't have the Reclaim Oracle, then you could easily do this with just your own emotion words written onto pieces of card yourself. There are loads of emotion wheels on Pinterest, and you could just copy every emotion word down onto separate pieces of card and do it that way. This doesn't need expensive out of print deck. It doesn't need anything really. This could be written on card. I am incredibly grateful that I was gifted the Reclaim from a very, very dear friend. But without it, I would be using printed out words from emotion wheels to do this with. So you can see I'm placing a word, a card on each of those cards around the edge, and I've turned this reading into an emotion wheel. So there we have it, a layout for a week of healing. So for position 1, where I am at the beginning of the week, the starting point, I pull Deirdre, she of the sorrows, a soul who people decided to destroy. She was reared in secret to become a wife, betrayed in love. Her own true love was killed. There were treacherous husbands and bewailing losses, until finally she decided to leap to her own death from a chariot. I think it seems odd that the chariot card was below this one, a double warning. The situation seems to be dire. I already knew this. With it, the emotion cards of purpose and humility had jumped out. The soul wisdom of Deirdre's card speaks about anxiety, trying to control the future instead of just letting go. This anxiety and need to control, keeping us stuck in repeating, restricting patterns of behaviour. Oh boy, doesn't tarot tell you the truth? This is basically the chariot wheel grooved into a path of destruction. It can't get off the track, destined to circle round and round, leading you to your death like Deirdre's. I have chariot wheel paths stuck in my mind that make me repeat destructive patterns. Now is the time to break free. So what does purpose mean for me? Purpose means to feed your souls with goodness and to let your desires pull your actions into new paths, to unblock the chariot wheel, to humble yourself down before flowers, to find joy and beauty everywhere. Basically, this is following gratitude and purpose. It's a time to dig my chariot wheel out of its destructive groove. Now's the time. So now position 2, the signpost card of where you're heading for this week. And I pull first the Page of Swords, or the Woman of Battle. This card with a figure ever alert to sudden change, astute, active, perceptive, insightful, vigilant, not confused or worried about things. I pull this with powerlessness. There is a call to observe truth more, I think, over this week, to move from powerlessness and to be able to discern. A call to look for the subtle changes around you, to use them as guideposts for your action. Gone is powerlessness. I think this is a call to step into your sovereignty, in realising that you are sovereign. You are the author of your own story. We saw in position 1 that there was a chariot stuck in a groove towards destruction, but we freed the chariot wheel, remember? So do we choose to be free? By the end of the week, we could. Alongside this card, the Judgment of Art, or the Four of Cups, came out. In this card, we see a miraculous cup that if 3 lies were said over it, it would burst into pieces. But if 3 truths were said over it, it would reunite. A cup to help with judgments involving truth and falsehood. Again, we're back to this discernment, to seeing truth. This week calls for a re-examination of lifestyle, from weariness, boredom, disgust and shame, to step away from that frustration that's had us blocked into self-worth, riding the unblocked chariot. So now we move on to the 3 cards in positions 3, 4 and 5, which are your future facing cards of things to hold on to through the week that will help. What will help me on this journey? The first card I pull is 0, the soul, or the Fool card in this deck, along with the emotion word hope. How brilliant is this? The Fool, your soul, a new phase, fresh starts, having vision and faith in yourself, and a sense of trust and playfulness in your journey. This is literally hope reclaimed. Then in position 4, I pull the Quest of Battle, the 10 of Swords, with arrogance. Oh my goodness me. This card speaks about new beginnings after the very worst has been realised. After the worst has been realised, we can begin the rest of our lives again. The crushing of your soul in defeat, the things we need to heal from. But don't be so arrogant as to think that we're not going to really feel this. We're not going to need to mourn. We're not going to go through a phase of intense emotions. This week, embrace and expect those intense emotions. There is a season for mourning what we've been through. And then in position 5, I pulled the Queen of Art, or the Queen of Cups. This is Bridget in this card, and she comes with the emotion of disconnection. Of course, Bridget needed to be here, daughter of the Dagda and the Morrigan. I believe that card 1 was the Morrigan. I was waiting for Bridget to appear. The Morrigan brought Bridget to me as a sign that I needed to begin a healing journey, and here she is, Bridget with her flame. So what sets you on fire? She asks us to look to what sets our soul on fire, to follow our desires, not to focus on the disconnections and the hurts of the past, but to focus forward on the rebuilding. So what lights your soul on fire with Bridget's fire? Remember again, at the very start of the reading, we were told to focus on purpose, your desires. Set yourself alight. Then we move to the positions 6, 7 and 8. So what to leave behind, what might hinder us this week. And in the first position, position 6, I pull the foundation of art with pride. The foundation of art is the 6 of Cups. Of course it is. Memories of childhood that hurt, that stir up the murky waters, that steal life with the cold stabs of betrayal. Process these feelings, feel them, but do not be guided by them anymore. These memories are not the future, but the past. The chariot is unstuck. Remember, we are not driving around in repeating circles anymore. And accompanied with pride, I have to think that sometimes I've held on to my wounding out of pride, as if to let go and heal would be to diminish how horrific it was, to diminish myself somehow for surviving it. But now it's simply time to let go. The pride card tells me that pride holds shame in its centre. Prideful people shout about who they are when really it's only them that need convincing. Shed the shame held tight to your chest, just as the egg being held in the 6 of Cups card. There is no need anymore to prove who you are to backstabbing people. Just move on. Then in position 7, I pulled the Mingler, or with limitation. The Temperance card, of course Temperance needed to be here. She always is in readings like this, speaking of the ability to moderate, to make subtle adjustments, to consider alchemy, things mixed together, the alchemy of your experiences, what's within your experiences that you can mine for gold. What have you learnt from your experience makes you joyful, and what limits you? We're back to those chariot tracks again. Which track will you follow? Experience has already taught you the way to go and where you don't need to head. So stop being small on purpose. Stop choosing to disappear. Limitation was never imposed, it was chosen. Oh, such great advice there. And the word limitation, you can see the power of adding emotion words into these healing readings with that. And finally, in position 8, the revelation of skill, or the 9 of Wands, with the emotion word contempt. Stop giving away your power. This is all about defences, boundaries, standing in your power, standing in your truth and your reality. This made me think that contempt from others had taught me to have no defences, to hold my own self in contempt. I think looking backwards and refusing to heal is a continuation of that lesson that they taught me. To not put myself first, to not follow my passions, to stay sitting in the chariot on the loop to destruction. It's time to be brave now and to stand for yourself, to build your own defences, to refuse to accept contempt for yourself in any way. Now we go to the centre cards. Firstly, the anchor card, the card to keep you grounded through the week. I pulled the walker between worlds, and look at this imagery. It mirrors the chariot card, that card that keeps telling us to take the power into our own hands and to follow our own purpose. This card talks about the ability to see within and without, and then to synthesize that knowledge into the everyday, following your passions, holding the reins of the chariot, knowing what went before but where you want to go. Focus on Bridget's flame, mine the past for gold. The entire reading is here in this one card, also with the mirroring of that imagery of the chariot. Then the card for my magical being to accompany me through the week, and I got Mickle and Muckle, the merry grig, all about play and childlike open hearts, renewing the spirit. He knows the inner child wants to play. He tells me to focus on the present moment, to not get too serious. The present moment is our only place of power, so play within it, lighten up, go on adventures, try new things. This will certainly keep me forward facing. And then finally in the centre, the ancestor card, a message from your ancestors for healing. And of course, it was the chariot card, to take power back into your own hands, to unblock that chariot wheel, to groove a new path for yourself away from repeating patterns. You can drive somewhere different now in your own chariot. And finally, I always like to pull the underlying energy card, the card at the bottom of the pack. And don't you know, there was the Dagda. I've got the Morrigan, Bridget and the Dagda now all in this reading. The augury of art, you see the Dagda's cauldron in a river of abundance, of joy, of pleasure, accompanied with the emotion word grief. This underlying energy, I feel, saying that you're now in a river of abundance going your own way. You're no longer swimming in a river of tears made up of the memories of the grief of the past. But grief has been your doorway to this abundance, this river of abundance. Feel the feelings, sit in the grief, let it go. That's the doorway to abundance, not numbing those feelings. It's all there, waiting. Follow your desires, follow your purpose. Mind the past experiences. That will tell you where you want to go, where you don't want to go, how to unhook that chariot wheel stuck on a path of destruction. No shame anymore. No contempt that you were taught for yourself. You're at the beginning of this journey, and it's a journey of hope for the soul. So that's it, guys. That's how I do a healing reading. This is a new spread for me based on the idea of a circle, the power of a circle, things rolling round to hope from a destructive beginning, stuck in a chariot on a path to destruction. This is how I use emotion words as well to really prompt me to delve deep into a message of healing too. I hope that you got a useful message out of this. If any of this reading resonates for you, then take it. The reason you're watching this might be to hear this message. I hope that you got some ideas for how I use tarot for healing and how you might too. I'd like to share more ideas for using tarot for healing too. So if that's something you'd like, then let me know. But thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.